right, PTL, what's going on? It's your boy Ethab coming at you with some power rankings. Before I begin, just gotta do a little self plug. I have started a Twitch channel with my good friend Alex. It's called Dunsparce Duo. I'm also got my own, where I upload Pokemon stuff to that, and then I got my own Twitch that I plan to start streaming frequently. So I will leave those in the description if you enjoyed this, because yes, need all the support I can get. Anyway, that's not why y'all are here. Y'all are here for me to absolutely fucking roast your drafts. Just kidding. I'll be kind of nice, but anyway, this was kind of difficult to do because obviously there are 22 different teams here, which is a lot of teams to rank. So I think that, I don't know, that especially like towards the middle, there may be some teams that could definitely be like switched around a little bit. So don't take too much stock in like the actual like numbered rankings specifically, other than be like the first few and like the last few. I think most of these teams have potential to do very well. I mean, obviously every coach drafts for their own play style. So I you know, don't hate me. This is just how I feel about these drafts. Feel free to prove me wrong. Like, honestly, I would like to see myself proved wrong with a lot of these. So anyway, starting at I'm gonna go from least impressive to me to most impressive. So starting out, I have the Birmingham Spritzy, coached by Onesie Baynett. Alex is a longtime draft league player and a player who's definitely known for wanting to use more unconventional strategies, which this definitely is. And I mean, like, that's one thing you got to consider when I rank this team last, is it is very unconventional. So I mean, it could do a lot of work. I haven't really seen a draft like this before, so it could always do work. But anyway, if you look at like the top three, Melmetal, Tapu Bulu, Slowbro, Nidoqueen, that's all very solid. Not gonna lie, Melmetal and Bulu are very hard to switch into. Slowbro is one of the best pivots in the game. You got some good rockers and Marowak, Stakataka, Nidoqueen, obviously. So it's got the utility. I also really like the Mega Audino pick for 6 points. I'm a big fan of that Mega. Especially if you don't have like room for like another Mega in your team, it's a really solid Wish Passer, and even with the bad ability, its typing Normal Fairy is pretty good. So I'm a fan of it. The thing I really don't like about this team is that it's very over reliant to Trick Room, and I mean, while Stakataka, Marowak, Melmetal, those mons are all super, I mean, even Hariyama, like, those mobs are all super duper scary in Trick Room, but I just feel like as a draft strategy, it can be counter teamed. Like, you have Taunt, you have, I mean, it's only lasts for 5 turns, and you have to make sure you can get Tricker up to begin with, which, granted, Audino, Stakataka, Slowbro, all of those do get up Trick Room pretty reliably, but I don't know, just as an overall strategy, I think that it relies too much on Trick Room. Maybe if there was like Slowbro, Melmetal, Stakataka, and then maybe you replace like Marowak, Hariyama with like some faster stuff, I think I'd like it a lot more. But I don't know, I just see this team, if it struggles to set up Trick Room, it's just going to struggle overall. And I mean, the Regieleki provides some speed, but I honestly don't like it too much on this draft. I think that this team doesn't have too many things that can really bait out the opponent's ground types, which is what you need with Regieleki, because if a team can just slap a ground type on just to wall it and really need it for really like nothing else. So yeah, that's really like all of my problems with this team. Like I said, like, you know, all these drafts could do work. I think I almost didn't rig this last because I really like a lot of the mons on this team, and I think that it does have potential, but as it stands now, I just think this draft's kind of weak. So we'll see what Alex can do. Next up, we have Luke Time with the Final Flareon, which, by the way, I think that is a hilarious team name. So props to that. I think Trog made that logo, so shout out to Trog. Let me turn that down a little bit. There we go. So Luke, last season was his first in PTL, and he kind of dominated D3 and then actually did a pretty good playoff run. So I was kind of excited to see what he would draft this time around, and honestly, I don't think it's too impressive. Here, let me pull up my notes here real quick. So Swallow, Thunderous, Diggersby, those are all pretty good offensive mons. I think that as far as like offensive pressure goes, they all provide really good pressure. They can all pivot out. So I think that's really solid. Rachi, Vaporeon is some good wish support. They're both pivots as well. And you also got Runerigus, which I think is honestly really good on this draft. Because you got like the wish support. It's only 7 points, which isn't that bad. Its typing's really good. Its stats are really good. So I'm a fan of Runerigus here. And then of course you got Ditto, which is Ditto's a great anti setup, which I think goes on this team well. And then the Reboot for 3 points, pretty good value. So yeah, overall, I like what this team has to offer. What I don't like is that I just feel like these offensive mons are not reliable enough to really carry this team enough. And I mean, you got Jirachi and Vaporeon. Jirachi can run many sets. It can run like Calm Mind. It can run like pivots. It can run like Scarf, Banded, Specs. It can do all sorts of things. Vaporeon, on the other hand, is almost exclusively a Wish Passer / pivot, which I guess Runerigus is really the only thing that really appreciates Wish. I don't understand Kabutops. I don't really understand what it does here for 8 points. I don't really understand the Alcremie. The Sceptile for 12 points. I mean, it's not a bad mon. It's got a great speed tier. It's got great setup options. Special attack's pretty good. I don't know. I see these offensive mons being somewhat unreliable, and I think it makes this team really susceptible to bad matchups. Granted, in matchups where, say, like Diggersby just goes in, I think this team has an advantage because it can get it in pretty easily and all that. But I don't know. This team just it seems a bit jumbled to me, and I really don't think that it puts on enough pressure to really be too scary. But I don't know. Luke proved last season he's a good battler, so I mean, this is certainly not something I would draft. Maybe this is more so his style. I don't know. We will see. All right. Next up at number 20, we have FC Porygon and Chime. I think this team is a lot better on paper than it will be in practice. So Landorus and Kyurem are both very good together. I like that because Kyurem takes on Landorus's checks, and Landorus takes on Kyurem's checks. I think that's a great 1-2 punch there right off the bat. Suicune, Tangrowth, Florges. that's a pretty solid defensive core that's going to be tough to break. And then I also really like Salazzle with this team because I think that this is a team that's going to probably going to rely on more Stally strategies a lot of the time. So I think that its ability to Toxic Poison, say maybe like Toxapex or like or what else? Toxapex is the main one that comes to mind, but I'm sure those you could yeah, I think that's gonna come in clutch. I just and then Pinsir I think is decent because it can clean up late game and also can wall break on its own right if it needs to. But I think where this team really struggles is that it's very one-dimensional. Landers can run like setup, it can run like pivot, it can run like scarf. I think that's good. Kyurem really can only, I mean, I guess you can run like Dragon Dance, but most of the time it's going to be more like special attacking, can be like substat. It doesn't really have too many moves it can use. Suicune's going to be defensive just about every week. Tankbo's going to be defensive. Pinsir pretty much only ever runs like a quick attack, physical move, biting move. It would be like Earthquake. Bisharp, it only ever runs like physical, like Sucker Punch sets. Florges only ever runs like Wish sets. And then I personally don't even like Florges that much as a Wish passer to begin with. I think that its HP is not really good enough and its abilities are useless, which honestly, with Mons with really high HP stats such as Kyurem, Suicune, Tangrowth, I really don't like it on this team. And then I think Bisharp, along with Raichu, Dusknoir are just kind of almost like a waste of points here. I think that if you change those points out for stuff that might have a little more variability, stuff that can maybe force a bit more prep, I like this team a lot more. But honestly, just like as it stands, I think this is somewhat of a weak draft, and yeah, I compared to like the first two, this one I feel like is better on paper, but personally I think that I think this team is gonna have a lot of trouble. So we'll see. I mean, obviously that can always change in transfers. It could always be, I mean, like I could be wrong and this everything could just go ham, but I don't know. I'm not a fan of this one. Next up at number 19, we have the Commissioner, Gray with the Vancouver Titans. So, this team I think is not terrible. Scizor, Mega Scizor is a great Pokemon. Primarina is a great Pokemon. Slowking is a great Pokemon. I really like Darm and Circuitry. I think that's a really good 1-2 punch. Especially for so cheap. Darm plus a powerful electric type is so good just because it can pivot out and then the electric types can just like go in, and I really like Circuitry here for that. Scizor, Breloom, Golisopod is pretty good priority. Primarina and Scizor complement each other well. They're both pretty good pivots, and Primarina is obviously a great Pokemon. I'm a big fan of it. And then honestly, I really like Slowking here too. I think that this team really appreciates the special bulk, and also I think Future Sight's gonna be really good on this team, especially with like all the pivoting going around. So yeah. Anyway, obviously this team is ranked 19th out of 22, so there are reasons for that. So the first one being the only rock setters are Crook and Diancie, which isn't bad per se. Crook's a great rocker. Diancie is also a pretty good rocker, but I think for a team that's going to be pivoting around a lot, you really want to have Mons that can keep coming in and keep setting up hazards, or just more hazard setters in general. And I think that it's going to lead to team building restrictions because you're going to have to bring one of Crook or Diancie for rocks, which is really not the best. I also really don't like Salamence. With Dual we can beat, it's certainly a lot better now, and as a setup sweeper on this team, I kind of like it. I mean, it can run defensive, boot sets. It's not bad, but compared to like something like Dragonite in the same tier, I think it doesn't even come close. And I don't know. I certainly would avoid Salamence, but we'll see. It can do work. And I think honestly the biggest weakness, Scizor and Salamence are the only removal options. And for a team that relies so much on pivoting, that's kind of horrible. Because Darmanitan obviously does not want to have to run boots every week. Xurkitree, even though it's not weak to rock specifically, it still doesn't want to have to take hazard damage every time it comes in. Scizor, of course, could be taking damage. Salamence is forced to run boots. I just think that honestly is this team's biggest weakness, and ultimately is the reason that it's ranked this low. If that were to be fixed, I think that this is a much better draft, and I would rank it much higher. But I think it's such an exploitable weakness, and one that really needs to be accounted for, or else this team's going to struggle. Anyway, so next up at number 18, we have Market, another player returning for his second season, who also had a very strong playoff showing. So, I mean, the thing that stands out right away about this team, which is definitely the most positive, is Mega Gallade, Blacephalon, Mamoswine, Indeedee, Dragalge, Alakazam, even in terrain, is so threatening. It's so threatening, in fact, that it is going to pretty much force who's ever playing this team to run offensive, because there's just simply no defending against this team. So that's but to counter to that, I think that the counterplay really isn't going to be too difficult, because I think yes, you have Ribombee for webs, but I think Scarfers are going to be a huge problem for this team, especially because there's really like no bulk to be found. Mamoswine can switch into like electric attacks, like Dragalge's decently bulky, and Empoleon's bulky, but like none of these really have recovery, and like I'm just that really worries me. Another thing is that it's such an offensive team. However, the only real pivots are Dragalge and Morpeko. I mean, I guess Jumpluff gets U-turn, Ribombee gets U-turn, but like normally on teams like this, you really want like stuff that can, like maybe like Rotom or like Slowbro or like Clefable, that can get stuff in like Blacephalon, Gallade, Alakazam, like as much as possible. And really there is none of that here, and I think that like I said, it's just gonna make this team really susceptible to other teams running offensive and just rolling over it. And then I also really don't like the Emboar pick. I don't think it really has much purpose when there's the Gallade already there. I think it'd be much better for like a more like bulkier dark check, maybe like something like Umbreon that can like wish, like take dark moves, dark and psychic moves, like pivot out. So yeah, like I said, this seems really scary on paper. I think in certain matchups it's definitely going to be very good, but it's ranked so low just because I think it's very unreliable in that there's lots of roles that are missing here, and I think the right teams will just destroy it. Not to mention, you also have Mamoswine, a mon that really likes his priority with psychic terrain, and That's also not the best. So, moving on, we have Viva Lapasco, a longtime member of PTL, number 17 with his Whitney Miltanks. So, honestly, I don't hate this draft. Hydreigon's obviously very good. I think paired with Galarian Slowbro and an Entei, I think that's a pretty good combo. You have two pretty good fairy checks that that are actually decently hard to switch into. So I like that. Milotic's very good, obviously. Very good pivot, doesn't die. Good for bringing in all the offensive pawns on this team. Aerodactyl and Piloswine are very reliable rockers. Mimikyu is, honestly, I don't like it for 13 points, but it does the job here. It's just like kind of a check to more offensive teams that may threaten with like sweepers and whatnot. So it's fine. And then the speed tears are pretty good. Personally, I actually really like Lucario on this team, and I think that if this team is successful, it's going to be because Lucario has been used well. Just because you have mods like Hydreigon, Slowbro, that kind of Manectric that can kind of force more special defense. You have Conkeldurr, Entei, which can force like Fizz Def Walls. Lucario is kind of unique as a fighter and a steal in the fact that it can be just as strong on the physical and special side, and I think that that's going to be very very important for this team. And like I said, if this team does well, I expect Lucario to be picking up a lot of kills. So anyway, for the negatives, there's a huge lack of removal here, which isn't a huge deal for this team. I think where that really hurts though is that Entei possibly will be forced to run boots a lot of weeks, which it really doesn't want to. It really wants to be able to run like band, it likes having an item. It's really not that powerful on its own. Its only attack buff move is a Howl, I believe. So you don't really want this thing to have to run boots, but with a lack of removal, it might have to. And then I think this team also has a lot of defensive pressure on my low tick, because like you don't really want to be running Altaria. Piloswine's bulky, but like it doesn't really have any recovery. Then Slowbro is the Galarian form is kind of just like middling with defensive stats, so Milotic's gonna have to carry a lot of the weight, and I think this team's gonna struggle against teams with like with good electric types like Tapu Koko or like Zeraora, because it really, like, once Piloswine goes down, like this team does not deal with electrics very well. And then Manectric with like Intimidate and like a pivot can do work. Hydreigon definitely has helped. Even like, you know, like Zeraora and like Tapu Koko, obviously it's not a switch in, so I see that being an issue. And then Conk, I think, is 15 points that could be spent elsewhere. I think with Lucario, it's an Entei, it's really like not too useful here. I think between like Conkeldurr and Mimikyu, maybe if you replace that out with like some more bulk, maybe some more hazard control, like anything, I think this team's a lot more balanced and looks a lot better. But just as it stands now, while this team has a lot of positives, it's really I really don't think it's nothing too impressive. So we'll see. Like I said, this team's very intriguing to me. It's very unconventional. I really like how Lucario looks here. I'm excited to see it put in work, so we'll see how it goes. Next up at number 16, we have the South End Stoutlands and Gremlin. Gremlin, of course, 1 season removed from being the champion. This is a very gremlin draft. He's from as long as I've been in leagues with him, his drafting style is very unique, and I mean, I think usually doesn't look good on paper. I rank him low, but I don't expect this. I don't expect him to be too unsuccessful this draft personally. But since these rankings are based off draft alone, I put this at 16. Reasons being, well, let me start with the positives. Zeraora and Zapdos are really good together. I'm a huge fan of those two. I think they can both wall break, they can both pivot, they can both set up, and their types are and their offensive synergy is very good together. Got like Venu, Moltres, Goodra, Umbreon, Aromatisse. That's a really nasty defensive core. It's going to be very, very tough to break, and I think some teams are just going to be straight up walled by them. I like Frostlass a lot. It's personally one of my favorite spikers in the game, and for a team that might not give too much opportunity for removal, I like it here. It allows Zapdos and Zeraora to poke holes in the team either early or late, or in the opponent's team either early or late. I think Inteleon and Rhyperior are really good sleeper threats. And overall, the team has pretty good versatility and speed tiers. Obviously, Zeraora and Zapdos can run a lot of sets. Moltres can go offensive or defensive. Goodra has all the coverage in the world. Inteleon can run like Specs, Scarf, like Focus Energy sets pretty well. Rhyperior can run like Setup, or it can just be like bulky. What I really don't like about this team is that the bulk's very passive. I mean, Venusaur can be very disruptive, but it doesn't do too much damage. Goodra, Goodra's attacking stats are average and really don't threaten too much outside of some teams that are just specifically weak to it. Aromatisse can't really do much. Umbreon can't really do much. I think that the biggest problem with this team is that just like I said, the bulk's very passive, and then Zeraora and Zapdos, I think, are really not enough offensive presence to really make up for that. So, I don't know. This is definitely going to be a lot of his wins. I feel like are going to be very stally. I mean, he's going to whittle his opponents down and then clean with one of these two, and I think or maybe even Inteleon a week or two. So I mean, that's the strategy, and I think it'll be effective. But personally, I think this strategy could have been put together a bit better. I also think Aromatisse and Umbreon are kind of redundant together. I mean, they check different stuff, but I don't know. I think one of these definitely could have been replaced with more of like a wall breaker, or even or something. And then also, I don't like how Bronzong, Rhyperior, and Palpitoad are the only rockers, because that means you're forced to bring one of these every game, which isn't the worst. But also, if you had like a Bulkymon that like, I feel like there are going to be some weeks where he's just going to have to bring one of these, even though it's not a good matchup, like just for rocks, and that's never what you want. So like I said, I know Gremlin's a good battler. He drafts to his strengths, and I certainly expect him to be successful with this team. It's just I think there's a bit to be desired here, so that's why it's ranked down at 16. So moving on to number 15, we have another longtime PTL coach, and this is Helmy with his Wisconsin Wheezing. Personally, I kind of like this team. I think Rillaboom, as a lot of people know, is one of my favorite mons to use in draft. So I love that. I mean, it alone can just win some matchups, and I think that just makes any team better. So I really like it with Arcanine too. I think it's really good. I think it's really good synergy offensively and defensively. Because Arcanine can come in and pivot out on fires and steals, which Rillaboom I have trouble with. I think Kang, Surf Edge, Tyranitar, I really like them as breakers. I think they do a great job of whittling stuff down for Rillaboom, Comfey, or Lucha to come in and clean. Fortress I like on this team for 5 points. It's able to set up hazards, it can pivot. It's really good on more offensive teams like this that can keep up momentum and not allow easy removal. And it's really good with Surf Edge, or sorry, never mind. I was gonna say Defiant, but I was thinking of Zapdos, so never mind on that one. But yeah, I still like Fortress a lot. And then Reuniqueless, Arcanine, Seismitoad. It's pretty solid defensively. They're all very reliable mons that can actually hit back in their own right too. So nothing bad with that. And then Seismitoad, Tyranitar, Fortress, all decent rockers. So I like that. The reasons this is at 15 is there's really two main reasons. I'd like the one smaller reason I noticed is that Tyranitar is here, but there's really nothing to abuse sand, which is not the biggest deal. Like, you don't always need like a sand abuser, but something like Dracozolt or like Stoutland even, I think would make this team a lot better. Dracozolt in particular, I really wish was on this team. But I don't want to give too many ideas. The bigger things I don't like is that I don't like Lucha at all. I think for 16 points, especially when you have that the 16 through 19 point threshold where you can only have 2 of those, I think Lucha's a big overpay. Personally, when I've used it, it really doesn't work in a lot of matchups, and it's just not very strong, and I'm not a huge fan of it. I mean, I think it'll, I think there'll be games where it definitely does do well, but personally, I don't like it that much. And then I think this team has a huge problem with flying types, because Rillaboom can't really hit flying types at all, and then the only real resist is Pikachu, which is not a resist, and then Tyranitar, which has a 4 times weakness and is also slow. So against against maybe like Corviknight teams, even though there's like an Arcanine, it still has trouble breaking it. Teams with like Zapdos, both Zapdoses, I think this team might run into some problems. So I think it's just kind of a very very obvious weakness here. You might be able to work around that. This is one of those teams that I could very well put higher, but I think those weaknesses really hold it back. So that's why it's down here at 15. Moving on to 14, we have Crackers with Philadelphia Fusion Flare. This team is just kind of screams middle of the pack to me. I think it does have a lot of good positives. Urshifu is obviously a very good mon. I think it makes every team better. It has some good wall breakers. Urshifu, of course, as I said, Azumarill, Pidgeot, Aegislash. Aegislash in particular I really like because its ability to go mixed, and I think paired with Urshifu, Azumarill, Pidgeot, I think it makes this team really hard to prep for defensively. Rotom Heat's also a fantastic pivot to go along with all these. And then Thwackey I actually really like for 4 points. I mean, Grassy Glide is incredible. And I think this team is going to be chipping teams down a lot, and it's really going to open up Grassy Glide cleans a lot. So I like that quite a bit. And then of course Neolego's a great mon. I love it. I love it on offensive teams. It's a hazard setter. It's a good cleaner. It's does a lot of good stuff. But this team does have some things that hold it back. I think Rotom being the only pivot is not ideal, especially when you have stuff like Urshifu, Aegislash, Azumarill that probably want to be coming in as much as possible, and just having this one pivot that doesn't have recovery is not ideal. Dredigen and Mudsdale, while they're very good defensive mons in their own right, they kind of stifle momentum, and I think that is going to be somewhat of an issue. I think this team also really lacks knockoff or Scald switch-ins. Azumarill doesn't want to lose an item, Urshifu doesn't want to lose an item, Aegislash is weak to dark. None of these want to be burned. Neolego's weak to water and doesn't want to lose its item. Rotom does not want to lose boots or be scalded. Pidgeot, I guess, can switch into both, but I mean, obviously, it's really not an ideal switch into anything, especially when you can't run boots on it. Hatterene's decent. I think that's really the best option here, and it's not bad, but it's also not the bulkiest. It doesn't have reliable recovery, so there's also the only removal is Rotom other than Pidgeot, which kind of limits Pidgeot's ability to be effective because obviously, like I said, it can't run boots. Hatterene kind of helps this with Magic Bounce, but so like I said, Hatterene also isn't the bulkiest and doesn't really want to be switching in to moves too much. So none of the defensive mons have really recovery, and they're mostly physically biased, which I think they're going to be worn down a lot. But I mean, with this type of team, I think I think a lot of weeks that's not going to be a huge issue just because of how powerful the mons are in this team. But obviously, you do not want the defensive mons worn down. Especially because Nihilego is the fastest non-mega mon here, which you really don't like because you want stuff that can, you want faster mons that can run Scar for like specs or whatnot, and really this team just doesn't have those options. So I mean the priority is pretty good, but yeah, I think speed is a major issue for this team, and I think Pidgeot, as much as I like it, is kind of relied upon to be in a lot of roles here. So, like I said, this is a very middle of the pack team. I think, I'd say anywhere from like, let's say like a 6 mon stretch here. I think could more or less be interchangeable, but I just happen to think that this draft wasn't as strong as the ones above it. So next up, we have Rufus with Parasens. I think one of Rufus's big strengths is that he definitely knows his playstyle, and I think that he's good at drafting his playstyle, and obviously this definitely is that. But if you compare it to like his last team, I think that this one's definitely more on the weaker side. I think Lele and Heracross are both fantastic wall breakers. You have Corviknight and Porygon too that can get them in pretty reliably, so that's very good. I really like Greninja. Spikes are great at speed and typing, allow it to clean as well, and that's super good. I like Tyrantrum as a low tier breaker, and everything in general are just it's pretty much just all solid mons. So I think that one of this team's biggest strength is that it's not really limited to what it can run every week. I think that I think that there are definitely a lot of options here. As for negatives, the only rockers are Tyrantrum and Claydol, which Tyrantrum doesn't really want to be running rocks, and Claydol is kind of dog shit, so that's not good. Greninja and Heracross provide spikes, so that helps a lot. Like, honestly, like these in like heavy duty boots era, I'd almost argue spikes are better than stealth rocks because most mons that are weak to rocks are going to be running boots anyway, so I don't think it's a huge deal, but you still want to have better options, be able to run rocks, and this team just doesn't have it. I also don't think Blaziken really ever has any reason to come, because you already have Heracross as a fighter, which I just don't see this thing really being necessary. So I think those points could have been spent elsewhere. Oh, and of course in hazards, I forgot Garbodor too. Garbodor's big. And then I think that just certain offensive cores are just gonna be a lot of trouble for this team. I like Coco's era teams are gonna be a big issue. I think offensive fire types are going to give this team a lot of issue. I think it just definitely has some weaknesses, which Porygon 2 is a really good blanket check to a lot of offensive mons, but if it loses that Eviolite or just gets worn down due to like pivoting, I could see this team running into a lot of trouble. So yeah, I just think you know, I think this team's only a couple changes away from being really good, but and I still think that it's honestly could do a lot of work, but I think it definitely does just have some glaring weaknesses that needs to be sorted out for it to really be a good team. Next up at number 12, we have Big Dick Brett with the Philadelphia Swirlixers, also a very long time draft league player. And this is a very Brett draft. I like the Latios, Beedrill, Infernape. I think that's really good. They're all really good offensive mons, good at providing pressure, which gives a lot of setup opportunity to Celesteela, Silvally, or Cloyster. I mean, there's great pivot options: Silvally, Manaphy, Beedrill, Infernape, and then honestly, like Golbat, Licky, Cofagrigus, Silvally, Manaphy, Celesteela. Those are all mons that can. They're kind of tough to break together. They don't all have to be run defensively, which I think this team really likes, but I think that this team has the ability to defensively check almost just about like every offensive core, and I think that's super good, especially when you have really good offensive mons like Beedrill, Infernape, Latios. So I think this team does have great synergy. I think what holds it back is that there's a major lack of hazard control. Infernape, actually that's it. Infernape is the only rocker, which you don't want to be forced into that role. The only defoggers are Latios, Beedrill, Silvally. I guess you could do Cloyster for spins, and I mean you have Whimsicott too, so and Golbat, yeah. So defog isn't a huge issue, but I don't know. I would definitely want like something a bit more. I'd like something more that doesn't mind running defog as much. I think Silvally has a lot of potential and doesn't really like running defog too much. Whimsicott's fine, but you can't. It normally can't come in too many times. Golbat's of course weak to rocks. So I think with like Beedrill, you maybe want maybe another defogger that really doesn't mind running it too much. So, but the lack of hazards, like other than Cloyster and Infernape, is really leaves a lot to be desired, especially for a team that really wants to pivot around a lot. Also, there is not an electric immunity on this team. The only resist is Whimsicott and Latios. So neither are really defensive mons. I think that's going to be so I think Volt Switch is going to be a huge problem for this team. Silvally, of course, can run ground, but you don't want to be restricting it to that because it can do a lot of other things, and it's going to make prepping for the opponent really easy if they just know that Silvally ground's going to come. So yeah, especially with like Celesteela, I think not having a solid ground type or electric immunity is really troublesome for this team. Maybe if there was like, you could do like a low tier like Lantern, or like do like Lantern, like Mudsdale, like even like Stunfisk or something. I think this team's a lot better, but yeah, I think that's a very noticeable weakness, and I think this team, if it didn't have that weakness, it would be definitely at least a few slots higher. So anyway, we are officially halfway through. I am tired. I hope y'all aren't too tired. But we're gonna move on to number 11. We have the Oslo City Dragon Dancers, coached by Soulblaze. Someone who has also been in the PTL for a few seasons, so we've got to see a fair amount of him so far. Right off the bat, Mawile, Gliscor, Toxapex is an absolutely filthy combo, and those three should come every single week, and those three alone are what really made this draft rank so highly for me. I like Gliscor, Noivern, Electros. I like them for pivots, for letting Maw come in, because Maw just likes coming in as many times as possible. I think Zoroark and Maw is a good combo that can potentially blow a game wide open with the right predictions. Azelf has a good speed tier. It's rocks. I like it on this team, and then even Slurpuff is pretty nice. You got sticky webs. I think it pairs well with Mawile, because Mawile is going to break down like the poisons and steel types, which is just going to allow Slurpuff to come in and sweep potentially. And then sticky web's pretty good with stuff like Magmortar. Mawile, obviously, you have Zoroark, so I like that. One thing I really don't like about this team is I think that there are 15 points that are designated towards spinners when this team really doesn't need them. It's not like it's really hazard heavy, so it doesn't really need to not run defog. It's not like anything is really like absurdly weak to hazards. So I think that these mons for their typing and what they do, there are definitely better mons available that you can just sacrifice rapid spin for, and I think that'd make this team a lot better. So I don't like that. And then I think that, like I said, these first three are going to be coming just about every week, which is, I mean, they're very good, but at the same time, I think over-reliance on these three is going to make this team a lot more, it's going to make it a lot more susceptible to counter-teaming. So, yeah, this is another team where I think just like a few tweaks could make this a very, very good draft. But as it is right now, I don't know. I mean, it's just very middle of the pack to me. But like I said, these three are very good. I think that they're gonna win games on their own, and we'll just have to see how it turns out. So, number 10, we have the South London Lognecks, coached by Amit. Amit is, I think, as far as this league is concerned, very much a wild card. In 2 seasons ago, he went 2-9, minus 22, good enough to be, or bad enough to be bottom of D3. But then last season, he was in D3, he went 10-2 plus 27 for first. So I don't know who we're gonna get this season, but honestly, I think this draft is pretty promising. Lopunny, I think, is very misunderstood in draft this gen. People think that because it lost return, it's really not that good, but I think on a team like this, a team that has one of the best hazard setters in the game in Skarmory, and a mon like Chandelure that can come in and just blast things that check this. And then you also have Dragonite that can come in and clean up. Blastoise that could come in and clean up or like pivot out. Even something like Moltres that can set up and sweep. I honestly really like this team. I mean, the hazard control, like I said, it's all fantastic. Skarmory is great, great remover and setter. Blastoise is a great remover. Celebi is a great setter. Donphan can set and remove. So, and then just good defensive synergy overall. Blastoise and Celebi is pretty good. Skarmory is fantastic, as we all know. Donphan's pretty reliable defensively, and then even Moltres, I think, is a pretty good wild card pick. It doesn't have the recovery, which kind of blows for it, but I mean, it's good wild card sweeper. It can run defensive sets that can be pretty that can come in clutch against like good psychic types. So and like I said, I like Dragonite this gen a lot. Going back to Gray's team, I like with Salamence, I think if his team had Dragonite, it'd rank a lot higher for me, but I'm a huge fan of Dragonite this gen. So the things I don't like, I think that outside of Lop, this team's a little on the slow side. Which, like I said, Lop base 135 speed, that's very good. But then you look at the next fastest thing, Electrode, but Electrode's not a mon. You have Celebi, which base 100 is good, but like, you know, if you really want to run like good like Scarfers, it doesn't really have it. Like, if you're trying to like stop like some Dragon Dancers or like set up mons, you want to outspeed them. Like, this team doesn't really have too many options for that. Fick at extreme speed. That's really, you have Ice Shard on Donphan, which those are all solid, but yeah, I think speed's going to be an issue for this team. And then I think also this team lacks a lot of sustainability. Moltres, of course, doesn't get recovery. Donphan doesn't get recovery. Blastoise doesn't get recovery. So really, you just have Celebi and Skarmory that kind of have more sustainability, and I think that's going to be very exploitable by certain offensive builds. So, but overall, like I said, I actually really like this draft, and I'm kind of excited to see how it plays out. So, yay! Number 9, we got Destin Lucario, coached by Raven. Raven is obviously infamous in the PTL for his somewhat defensive strategies, and I think that this team is definitely no exception. But I think compared to his normal drafts, this team's actually a lot more offensive, and I actually like that for Raven. Diancie, Victini, Haxorus, Scizor. Those are all very, very potent offensive mons. Victini and Diancie are very dynamic. Can run like physical or special, can run setup, can all do all sorts of stuff. Diancie, Haxorus, Scizor is just an absolutely nasty Fairy Dragon Steel Core. And then, of course, we got the Raven special. You got Gligar, Quagsire, Tangela, all these fat fucks that don't die. So and I like he has a lot of variability here. He can run. He can definitely run a defensive core that can be swapped out depending on what he needs for the week. So and like, I mean, honestly, these four, I mean, I rag on teams that don't have too many offensive threats, but I think these four are so good that's really all you need. And then you even have Heliolisk in case you need it, which is pretty solid Scar for a good Skull switch in. Great mon. And then Gligar, Diancie, and Chansey are all pretty good rockers. You got Scizor, Sableye, Haxorus that all have pretty reliable priority. So, it's got a lot going for it. I think one big problem with this team is that a lot of these mons are very item reliant. Victini, of course, needs boots or like a choice item. Haxorus, Scizor don't really care, but of course Chansey cannot be knocked off, Gligar cannot be knocked off, Tangela cannot lose its Eviolite. I guess Alomola, Quagsire, and Sableye, I mean, they can all take knockoffs. You don't really want them being tricked, but I think that there are too many mons here, though, that do rely on their items, and I think like there's going to be a lot of offensive mons that are just going to be able to run like trick or like knockoff or whatever, and actually just break this team wide open. So, and also the only dark resists are Diancie, which obviously does not have a recovery and loses a lot of bulk when it evolves, and Wigglytuff, which one, Wigglytuff you don't want to bring a lot, and then two, he actually dropped this, I believe, for Gothorita, which honestly I like a lot. I like Gothorita. I mean, it's just Shadow Attack's crazy, but I think, I mean, the biggest thing that stands out to me, though, which it doesn't say it here, but this man has a Wigglytuff, and he's got 8 points left over. Like, dude, I understand that, I mean, like, teams don't need to go to, like, the point limit to be, like, viable, but I just think there are a lot of points left on the table here that, I mean, honestly, like, I think this team is, like, 1 or 2 mons away from honestly being, like the best draft, like, this season, so, I mean, yeah, that's really my main problem with this team. It's just like a lot of middling picks, which I mean are all useful in their own right, but I don't know. I think point management could be a bit better, and I think that does hold this team back a little bit. So, I don't know. I like this team quite a bit. Like I said, I mean, Raven, you know, you love to hate his drafts and the way he plays, but you know, he gets results, and I like how this team looks. So, yeah, I'm kind of excited to see what he can do with us. So, next up at number 8, we have Zane Goose with the Baltimore Gliscorials. Zane is one of the original members of this league, and one that really hasn't had too much success since quite a few seasons ago. So I think he's due to have a good season, and honestly, with this draft, I think he can do it. Obviously, the Dragapult's there. I think Dragapult on its own sets any draft like at least a few spots higher than what it'd be otherwise. I mean, it's without a doubt the most like the best mono draft. I mean, honestly, I think that it should be banned in most drafts. So yeah, obviously Dragapult is incredible. So Rotomosh and Uxie, very good pivots, allows it to bring in Pult and Zard very well. Zard, by the way, is one of my favorite breakers in draft, and he has pretty good, very good removal in Excadrill and Rotom, and Weezing to even Articuno to make sure it doesn't have to take rocks damage every time it comes in. And then, of course, like the Weather Core. I'm not a huge fan of Weather in draft usually, but I like it here. Excadrill Hippowdon, obviously solid. It's been a staple in competitive Pokemon since Gen 5, and you know, Excadrill just keeps getting better like every generation, so that's good. Zard's good. It can cancel out Sand, which this team doesn't mind too much, because of course you don't want to get Rotom beat shipped down too much. You don't want to get Polt shipped down, Weezing, Uxie. So that's nice. You also got the Sawsbuck, which is pretty spicy for 2 points. Decent Chlorophyll Sweeper. I think it'll be good. And then not even looking at Polt, Drill and Zard just combined are just very good offensive mons, and even if like everything else on the team like is not offensive, I think those two will still put in work. And then you even have like the Polt on top of it, so I think offensively this team is very, very threatening. I think that this team definitely does have some weaknesses, though. I think it has a pretty apparent weakness to special attacks. I mean, Rotom can run Spidef, but doesn't really have too much sustainability. Hippo's very physically biased. Weezing's very physically biased. Uxie can also run special, but like Rotom, it doesn't have too much sustainability. And then you have Scrafty, which Scrafty can do the job, especially against like ghost types. But I think that's definitely more of an exploitable weakness of this draft. I think like ghost types, like psychic types, are going to be a problem for this team. I think 9 points for Lycanroc midday is actually booty. I don't think the Sand Rush is necessary with Excadrill. I think that without like Tough Claws, like the Dusk form has, this thing really just leaves a lot to be desired offensively. I guess it's like a fast rocker, but I'm not a fan. I think those points could have been spent elsewhere. And then what I don't like how there's really no spikes or screen support for Polt. Polt really likes having a lot of like support like that, because of course like hazards are good for be able to run like pivot sets. Screens are good because this thing likes running setup, which this team really doesn't have, which isn't a deal breaker. I think Polt's still very good here. I think he drafted around Polt well, but you know, like I think something like Klefki on this draft would just put it on like another level. So yeah, like I said, Polt's the best mon in draft. I think that if Zane uses Polt right, I think he can. I think the sky's the limit with his team. So we'll see. Next up at number 7, we have Deckers 96 and his Pelippool. This is a coach that I really don't know anything about. He's one of the only, if not the only, new coach this season. I'll have to check on that, but this is Rain. Straight up. Zapdos, Swampert, Kingdra, Pelipper, Poliwrath, those are proven mons that just decimate in rainy weather. So, you know, obviously very threatening. Nidoking's a very dynamic wall breaker. I love it just about in every draft. I think it also really appreciates being able to pivot in from Swampert, that'll bait in grass types, Zapdos, that'll bait in ground types. This thing can like Ice Beam, and I don't know, I like Nidoking here a ton. So Nidoking, Swampert, Decidueye, a pretty good electric pretty good electric checks that kind of balance out Pelipper, which you really want, because you don't want Pelipper just being a liability, which it can be a lot of matchups because it's slow and just has that crippling electric weakness. Escavalier, great budget pick in Rain. Obviously mitigates the fire weakness a little bit. And then Grimmsnarl, this is not the most ideal draft I'd put in for Grimmsnarl in, but I mean, it's good counterplay to hazards. This team really, I mean, this team likes screens. I don't think they're bad here. And offensively, it's just, I mean, it's a decent mon, so I like Grimmsnarl in general. And then Zapdos and Decidueye are really good removal options, which Pelipper likes, because you want to be able to run Damp Rock on this thing and not have to run Boots. So that's huge. The thing that kind of holds this team back to me is that I think it's a little too reliant on weather. I think Kingdra, Swampert, Poliwrath is very excessive. I don't think you need that many Swift Swimmers. I think trading one or two of these out for maybe a bit more balance makes this team a lot better, because this team's just if there's good counterplay to Rain, this team just really struggles. I mean, I think in Rain this team is super duper strong, so that's why it's ranked so high. So normally I don't like Rain teams. I think that they don't work the way they show on paper, but I like this one a lot, and I think that there are definitely going to be matchups, many matchups where this team just really doesn't have much counterplay. So that's why it's ranked so high. Like I said, I don't know anything about Deckers out, so you know, this is definitely much more of a wild card for me, but you know, we'll see. I'm excited to see how it works. Whew. Oh, I'm gonna take a deep breath here real quick. Hold on. Ooh. All right. Number 6. We're getting near the home stretch here. Yeah, I mean, let me get some water. My throat's all dry. Save the suspense. Alright. Number 6. We have Trog with the New York Yampers. Trog also an OG in this league. And someone who's had a very up and down run. He's had some very good seasons and he's had some very bad seasons. So he's one of those players where you really don't know what you're gonna get. But personally, I think this is a very good draft. So I think the power is in his hands. So I think right off the bat, you have Medicham and Spectrier. That is a 1-2 punch, is absolutely brutal to prep for. And I think they complement each other very well. These two are going to absolutely carry this team offensively, and I have no doubt about that. In Blissey, Incineroar, Rotom, all fantastic pivots, which you really want because you want to get these two in as much as possible. Klefki is one of my favorite mons in draft. It's the single best spike setter in the game. It's got one of the best typings in the game. Of course, it can screens, it can Thunder Wave, it can Toxic. It's such a good support mon and incredible with stuff like Medicham and Spectrier that forces switches. So love Klefki on this team. Regidrago is a mon that forces prep just because those dragon attacks hit so hard, and I like it with something like Medicham because teams might be reliant on fairies to check Medicham, and if Medicham can like pick up kills versus them with maybe like a cheeky double edge or something, then Drago just goes in. So I like it a lot. Lando and Blissey are both very solid stealth rock setters, and then Araquanid, I like it. Sticky Web's awesome with this team. In its own right, it's just a solid mon. It's hard to switch into. I'm a big fan of it. And then of course you got Weezing, which can set T-spikes, which great with Spectrier, of course, because of Hex. And then just solid defensive mon as well. So yeah, really solid draft. But I mean, it's not number 1. and there are reasons for that. I think the fact that the only flying resist is Klefki, and that's not ideal. Not that, I mean, obviously flying spam is not nearly what it was like a couple gens ago, so I mean, I don't think it's a huge deal, but especially with something like Metacham that's going to be forcing in flyers, not really, you know, like say something like Tornadus is going to give this team a really, really rough time, and I think that's definitely something that this team's going to struggle with. I don't like these bottom two picks in Dreadnought and Ice-Q. I guess Dreadnought is a flying check, but I mean, it's, yeah. Ice-Q is really not a Pokemon, to be honest. As much as I love it, it's just, it's too easy to work around. I think that Ice Face is really its only niche, and I just don't see it being too useful, but yeah, who knows? But yeah, I think this team's main weakness is that Metacham and Spectrier are the carry, which, like I said, it's a very, very good 1-2 punch, but I think that there will be certain teams that are going to deal with this well. I think it was like Brett's team, for example, because you got like Licky, which completely shuts down Spec, and then you have like Kofagrigus, which like completely shuts down Metacham. I think versus like certain teams like that, this team is going to really, really struggle, and that's kind of what holds it back. Just over reliance on these two. So you know, Trog's good. I think he can work around that, but yeah, I like drafts that don't really force too much reliability in a small amount of mons, so that is kind of what holds it back. But overall, I really do like this draft. I think it's very solid. It's definitely more like something I would draft, so I mean, I like it for that reason too. So yeah, I'm excited to see how he uses this. Spectrier is a really interesting mon to me, and I don't think its potential has really been found out yet. So I'm excited. Okay. All right, cool. I'm a little over an hour. I only got 5 left. We're making great time. Cool. Okay. We've gotten to the top 5. And at number 5, we have the Los Angeles Nidokings, coached by Joey, also a very, very long time PTL member. Joey, like Trog, is also someone I see as somewhat of a wild card. I like he's also had some up and down seasons, but I think overall I do think he's a good battler. I think his last season was kind of disastrous for him, and I think there are a few reasons for that, but I think he's a good battler. He's a good drafter, so I definitely expect him to bounce back this season. So and with his team, I don't think it's going to be too tough. So I think yeah, just Coco and Torn on their own, very, very good pivot combo. Absolutely nasty to prep for. They both force prep. They're both very fast. These two just on their own, I think, like even if each, like, you know, most teams don't get both of these. I think that, you know, teams that have Coco force a lot of prep. I think teams that have Torn force a lot of prep. So having them both together, I think, just is absolutely nightmarish. And yeah, that's going to be really, really tough for opponents to prep for it. I like how this team has lots and lots of variability. Coco, Torn, Lycanroc, Cresselia, Cobalion, Altaria, even Muck. They can all be setup sweepers. And of course, I mean, you got like Cobalion and Cresselia, Muck, those can all be defensive too. So you got a lot of different options here, but like I said, like these are all mons that have very viable setup sets that need to be accounted for. And I think just that on top of just having these two on their own is going to be very, very good for Joey, because he's going to have a lot of different options, and his opponents definitely won't be able to check everything. Miltank and Cobalion, hands down, two of the best stealth rockers in the game. You definitely don't mind bringing one of these to every match. Even Lycanroc can run rocks too, if you don't want to run those two. And Lycanroc is an exceptional wall breaker. I love this thing. I think it's super, super, super good. And then also Cresselia, Sarina, Alolan Muck, Jellicent, Altaria, Miltank. Those are all really, really solid defensive mons too. And yeah, I really, really like what this team has to offer. But a running theme, which I hate that these teams keep being weak to, is electric weakness. Of course, you have Coco, which sets up terrain, but the only immunity is, well, I guess you have Marowak and Golem, which, I mean, Marowak's okay. Golem's pretty trash, but you really, like, for a team that relies so much on Volturn, I feel like, I mean, I think it's very, very weak to Volturn in return. So I think that maybe with like a transfer or two, with him getting a better electric immunity, this makes his team a lot better. But yeah, that's definitely a something to look out for, because this team really doesn't want to be worn down too much. Like the Cresselia, Miltank, Jellicent, they all have recovery, but you know, if they keep volt switching, you turning around and preventing that, that could very, very well get out of hand for this team. So and then also another thing I don't like is that there are really no terrain abusers, which isn't too important, but like, you know, just having like a low tier like Driftblim or like even like Thievul is just super, super good value, just for, you know, just another threat, which I really would like on this team. But like I said, obviously not too big of a deal. But yeah, overall, like I said, I really, really like this team. It's just, yeah, that the weakness to Volturn could really be problematic for this team. So Joey might be able to work around it. I mean, like, Altaria resists electric, Serena resists electric, it's Coco, of course, resists electric, but you know, obviously not ideal. So yeah. Number 4, we have Kilo Boom, formerly known as Bub, a very, very long time draft league player, one who is actually one of the first players I ever played in drafts. So obviously knows what he's doing. Did not have the greatest season last season, obviously, but he's a very good battler, and I expect him to bounce back. And yeah, like with Joey, I like with a team like this, I really don't see that being an issue. Like with Joey's draft, every mon just about can be run offensively or defensively. Garchomp, Buzzwole, Togekiss, Snorlax, Aggron, Tentacruel even. I really like those mons all excel in both roles, and I think in like such a big draft, having that variability is going to be huge. So I really like it. Chomp, Aggron, Togekiss, very, very good. Dragon Steel Fairy Core, very, very tough to break. I like Snorlax with it too. Snorlax, I think, pairs great with especially like Wish Togekiss. Even though Snorlax is a really big HP stat, you don't even have to run HP. Like, and it's really good. Buzzwole, even is just like another check to fighters, is fantastic. So Yeah, I really like this team's defensive core. I think Serp's a really good option because you have stuff like Togekiss, Buzzwole, Garchomp, Gengar that really like Glare. And then the Hazard Control's fantastic. Garchomp's a great rocker. Aggron's a great rocker. Togekiss, Superior, Tentacruel are all very reliable removers. And then Mesprit for 7 points is very good value. I think it should be a bit higher personally. But I like it on this team. It's a great budget psychic. It can set up rocks, levitate's great. It's a pivot. Yeah, just all around pretty solid. I think as for negatives, a running theme like I keep saying this. These teams are all weak to electric. Like Garchomp is an immunity. It's good, but also you don't want it to be forced into that role. Superior resists, but I mean, of course, it can't paralyze back. You have Ampharos, which for 2 points, pretty decent pivot. But I think that there just is an overall lack of pivots here. I guess like Togekiss can like baton pass. You have like Mesprit, Ampharos, but you know, stuff like Gengar, Garchomp that you want to be coming in more. I think like Gengar especially, it's going to be hard to bring in just due to like the lack of pivots. And then finally, just I know he hasn't played too much this gen, and this kind of looks like more almost like a Sun and Moon draft, and I think that these last three kind of encapsulate that. Sneasel's just kind of dog shit, honestly, this gen. Like Triple Axel's fine, but I mean Sneasel, Ampharos, Arbok, that's 9 points on the table, which really could have been used elsewhere. And I think if he had, like I said, maybe like another pivot, especially just like a reliable pivot, I really like this team a lot more. But overall, I think this team has a ton going for it. I think it's got good variability. It's got really good resistances, and overall, just really not too many weaknesses that stand out. So yeah, just overall very solid draft. I think as you know, as we're up in like the drafts I've ranked the highest, I think the biggest thing I'm looking for is just reliability, because it is there are 22 other drafts, and while you know not going to be playing all of them, you have the chance to be playing all of them, and then you get a chance to play everyone in playoffs. So you really want a team that you're able to run a lot of different stuff with, and you know, be prepared for whatever you might have to face. So I really like Bub's team for that reason, or sorry, Killua's for that reason. All right, number 3, we have Bloodcrawler and the Leuven Larvatars. Blood's also been in the PTL for quite a few seasons now. Someone who, I mean, as the past 2 seasons would imply, has had a very average record consistently. But I mean, I think that he's a good player, and you know, I think with a draft like this, he could really break through and find a lot of success. So first off, Mew, one of the best mons in draft, makes every team better, and like with Dragon Bolt, I think on its own just can make any team like higher up in the rankings. I think Komodo, Torkoal, Steelix, very reliable rock setters. And then Raikou, Weavile, Venusaur, and the Sun are all very reach very good speed tiers, and are definitely going to make teams have a lot of trouble running offense versus this team. And then also Sylveon, Komodo, Steelix, Torkoal, Mantine, all pretty solid defensive mons. I like their synergy together. So yeah, I just I like this team a lot. Mew and Komodo are both very, very threatening in the fact that they can run very, very different sets. Komodo, of course, can't run Clang or Assault, which personally I don't think hurts it that much. In my experience with running Komodo, I think that running stuff like Iron Defense Body Press, like Belly Drum, even like Dragon Dance are all very, very good options. And you can even run like Specs. You can run a band. Like you can run so many sets. I love Komodo so much. It's one of my favorite mons in draft. And I mean these two can be brought every week and can just run a whole different types of sets, and that's good. Venusaur provides a great setup or a sweeper option. Raikou can set up, can also be like a pivot. I like Raikou a lot for its even just like for its utility. It's just like a pivot. It can run like AV. It's fantastic. Then Weavile is really this gen, especially with Triple Axle, has just really become one of the premier physical wall breakers in drafts, and especially on a team like this, which might see teams being worn down quite a bit. I really like Weavile's ability to either come in and break and set up an opportunity for these sweepers, or opportunity to clean. So yeah, and then of course Sylveon, just it can wish, it can pivot, it really can be run offensively. It's solid fairy is a great typing, especially just like with this team, and like all its fighting weaknesses. So yeah, I think it's super good. I think if I had to say anything bad about this draft is that other than Mew and Komodo, I think it loses a little bit of variance. Like I said, Sylveon can run like offensive, Torkoal can even run like offensive, but and then Raikou has like a few different sets. But I mean, most of the time you're going to be running a lot of the same stuff with this team, which isn't the worst because all these mons are really solid and do what they do very well. So, but that's what's keeping it from being the best team in my opinion. And then honestly, the wall breaking power leaves a little bit to be desired, because Weavile's really the only like designated breaker here, which I mean it does it pretty well, but you know, I think if this team's successful, it's really going to be just more of the long game. You know, pivoting with Raikou, wearing things down the Weavile and Komodo, cleaning up with like Mew or Venusaur, which I think this team is really built well for that. So yeah, I like this team a lot. All right, so number 2, we have our defending champion Tenkai with the Boulder Dragapults rocking a new team. So yeah, why do I like this team a lot? Well, I'm gonna explain it. What if I just didn't? What if I just ended it here? Haha. Just kidding. So Aerodactyl, Cinderace, Obstagoon, all very good breakers. Cinderace, even without Libero, is super hard to switch into. Aerodactyl is crazy. Obstagoon is crazy. Love that. I think it's really good to pair with Clefable, Ferrothorn, Starmie, Gastrodon, which are all very, very good defensive mons. Starmie, I consider it more of a defensive mon, even though it can't run offensive, but Starmie's very unique. I like it with Flip Turn now, so. And the Rapid Spin's nice, especially with like a team that's so reliant on hazard control. You have great pivots. Obstagoon can pivot out with Parting Shot, which opens up opportunities for like Aerodactyl, Clefable, Flygon or Virizion to sweep. Clefable, of course, is a pivot, which brings in like all these threatening stuff. Vikavolt can Sticky Web pivot. It can even break itself. Yeah, I mean, there's good setup options all around. There's great speed tiers, great hazard control. And I think that every mon here just has a place. Like you know, these are all mons that I feel can be brought most weeks, and so it's gonna make building for the opponent tough, and I think it's gonna really open up Tenkai to be able to do some fun stuff, like, you know, run maybe like some offensive Clefable sets, run some like surprise bulk up Cinderace, run like Meteor Beam Starmie, like stuff like that. So yeah, this team is just overall very complete. I really don't have too many. I mean, it's top 2 drafts, so you'd hope I wouldn't have too many bad things to say about it, which I don't. I think one potential weakness is that Cinderace, Aerodactyl, Obstagoon. I think that's a lot of this team's. I think this team relies on all 3 of them offensively, which against teams that may be able to wall those pretty well. Which I really don't think there is. Obstagoon just is really hard to wall. Arrow is really hard to wall. Like, I don't think it's gonna be a problem. But you know, in matchups where they might struggle, this team's gonna struggle. And then also to go along with that, the team's just very physically biased. So, like I said, if a team just can run physical checks to all 3 of these, you know, I think Tenkai might have a bit more trouble winning with them. But honestly, I really like this draft. So, you know, I think he's gonna make a very good bid to return to the finals this season. All right, so we got 1 draft left. If you've been paying attention, you can probably figure out which one it is, and it is David Ryan's Dynamo Bucharest. David's someone who hasn't had too much success in the past few seasons, but I remember before this season he did very well in D2, and I think is a good battler. Just has been held back by drafts that haven't been too great, but God, this team is disgusting. Before, I think Luke originally had Finny, and then he dropped it, and then David picked it up, and if it weren't for that, this team would not be ranked nearly as high. But I just think, like, just alone, Zygarde, Finny, Ninetales, that's just disgusting. Like, these 2 are already so tough to break as it is, and with that Veil support, it's just ridiculous. And I mean, honestly, like, that's kind of like all the win cons you need. But I mean, he drafted around it very well. Arctozolt, fantastic ball breaker, only 8 points, great in hail. You have Heatran, Swampert, Zarude, all very solid mons. These two can pivot. Zarude can set up, Swampert can set up, Heatran can be around offensively or defensively. These 2 both really like running rocks, very solid. Crobat is one of the most reliable removers in the game, which this team really enjoys, because I think with all this setup stuff, it can be kind of weak to phasing, and Crobat helps deal with that. And then Meloetta, I don't know why it's 8 points, but Meloetta is awesome. Normal Psychic's a really good typing. Great special defense. With Veil, I think it can definitely afford to run even like Pirouette sets or Pirouetta sets, which really good. And then Passimian, 6 points. You have a team with Veil. You have a mon that gets a +2 attack from Defog. It's a perfect fit. So yeah, this team just synergizes super well. I really like it. I think it's I mean, people that know how I play know that Ninetales I think is honestly one of my favorite mons in draft. I mean, I'm the reason. I'm pretty sure that it's 13 points, which is honestly the most I've seen in like any league, but I think it's worth it. So Yeah. The only real like weaknesses I have to say, I mean, it's, you know, no draft is perfect. Like I said, I think that without Crobat, this team could be kind of weak to phasing because Zygarde and Finny can be very setup reliant, and against phasing teams, it could have some trouble. But like I said, I don't see that being a huge big deal. Hazards really aren't what they used to be. And then I think that this team's success could be a little bit too reliant on Hail, which, you know, that could or Veil, I mean, which could really struggle against, you know, teams like Zane's, where he not only has like the Infiltrator Pult, but he also has 2 Weather Setters, which could give this team a run for its money. But I mean, even without it, I mean, Zygarde and Finny are just disgusting together. Like this team doesn't need Hail to be successful, but just on top, just the Hail added into it just makes this team so much more threatening. And I think most matchups, Ninetales Veil is very reliable. I think there are very, very few mons that threaten its ability to do work. So yeah, compared to a team like Tenkai's, I think like his team's like a lot more balanced. Or even like Blood's team, but you know, I just think this team is going to be absolutely nightmarish to prep for, and these 3 are just insane. So yeah, I'm really excited to see where this team takes him. So yeah, anyway, that's it. That was a lot. 22 teams is a lot. What's my time? About like 90 minutes. Pretty good. I've seen draft analysis for like leagues half this size that have taken like double that time. So I'm gonna take that as a dub. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Excited for this season, even though I'm not gonna be playing. It's kind of fun to be on the other side and, you know, just kind of see how things go. So, you know, obviously these are not definitive. I think you know, there are very well going to be teams that I ranked that are going to prove me right, and there are teams that are going to prove me completely wrong. So I'm excited to see who those teams are too. So yeah, y'all have a lovely day.